Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome back to Mind Your Head. This week I have Ron Isherwood sitting down with me for a chat. Ron was born into a life of crime, grew up in the slums of Fitzroy in Melbourne. He's seen it all from crime, addiction, violence and prison. After spending almost 2 decades behind bars, Ron is 38 years clean and uses his own experiences with addiction to help others with their own recovery journey. This was an incredible chat with an incredible human being. I can't wait for you all to hear it. Let's get into it. Ron, welcome to Mind Your Head, mate. It's an absolute pleasure you coming on the podcast today.
No, thanks, mate. Thank you for having me.
Now, there's one of the many things that I love about doing this podcast is I get to have incredible chats with people from all walks of life. And that wouldn't be more prevalent sitting here with you today. I think our upbringings couldn't be more different, as we've already sort of talked about already. But yeah, can you take me back to your childhood and talk me through sort of what your upbringing was like and maybe your earliest memories?
I was born in Victoria, in a country town called Swan Hill. My grandparents owned vineyards. My dad was a buck jump rider, so he used to break horses in and go to the rodeos and ride horses. And he was a professional fighter, a boxer. So we moved from the bush into the big city of Melbourne when I was, I think, 2 or 3 years of age. And my first memories were the police were the enemy. You drive past the police car and oh man, go, look at them effing dog, like
The pigs.
Yeah, the pigs.
Yeah.
It's just a complete hatred, and I'd never understood it. And when I was about 4, I think it was, I'd been in bed at my mum's. We were really poor. We were that poor, like we had to go to Kentucky Fried lick other people's fingers. We were poor. We really were. It was massive. And we ate bread. You ate bread for breakfast. You ate bread for tea, and it was like that in those days. And we lived in a really poor suburb called Fitzroy, which is now a
Trendy. It's trendy, isn't it?
Yeah. And I remember someone banging on the door early hours in the morning, and I'm in bed with my mum. I'm freaked out. We had a little 2-bedroom house, and my 2 sisters were in the other room. And I was sleeping in the bed with my mum, and my mum opened the door, and these big cops. In the old days, cops used to have suits on. Yeah. And the hats, and they pushed my mum to the side. My old man's handcuffed, got blood all over him where they'd been beating him up. And they came into the house and ripped the house to pieces. Well, when they came into the door, I still remember it. I've been told about it 100 times. I don't know if it's my memory or been told. I sat up in bed and I went bang, bang, like that to the cops. Because I knew they were the enemy. And, and I was 4 years of age. And that day they tore my mother's house to pieces. Left it all messed up and broke stuff, and just left the house with my dad, and they took my dad away and arrested him. So that was my first memory of the police. So I had this hatred.
Yeah,
this incredible hatred of
conditioned into you very early on.
And as my life progressed, my father also progressed in the underworld. He joined what they called the Federal Painters and Dockers, which was...
Yeah, what is that?
It used to be... It's a union that looked after the wharfs, and anything that came into the wharfs, because you've got to remember this before containers, they'd have to come in on pallets, and they'd steal off the pallets.
Yeah.
But there was more to it than that. If you were high up in the hierarchy of the painters and dockers, they had what they called ghosts. So there might be 200 blokes working on the ship, but there's only 150. So there's 50 extra wages a week coming off there that were getting shared between the hierarchy, what I mean? So, it was, those days, I'm talking about the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, it was pretty crazy. And I said to my dad, I remember when I was a kid, I said to Dad, one of his mates said, "Oh, what do you want to be?" And I said, "I want to be a lawyer." And the reason I wanted to be a lawyer because I'd see all my old man's mates and my old man paying lawyers lots of money. So I'm thinking, "I'll be a lawyer. This would be good." My old man turned around and he said, "If you want to fight the coppers, buy a gun."
Wow.
You know, and fast forward to 17, I'm arrested for having a shootout with the police.
Wow.
And I went to Pentridge at 17 as a little boy. You know, a little boy that couldn't even shave.
Yeah. Was that one of the roughest prisons
It
at the
was
time? It was.
It was the deaths. It was that's where they hung Ronnie Ryan, last man to be hung in Australia. He was hung there. I lived in a cell 4 doors down from where he was hung.
Really?
And he was friends with my dad, Ronnie Ryan, you know,
So what was your family dynamics growing up? I mean, you mentioned your dads and the painters and dockers. What was the relationship with your mum and your sisters? And were you close with your dad?
At the time, yeah.
Yeah, you were.
My dad was my hero.
Who's your idol?
He was my idol. My dad was a boxer.
Yeah.
I've been able to box since I was 4 years of age.
Yeah.
I've been boxing as long as I could walk.
Mm.
I wanted to fight in the 72 Olympics.
Oh, really?
That's what I wanted to do. That was my whole goal at the time. I wanted to fight in the 72 Olympics. But I was also encouraged to be a criminal. So I was breaking into places. At 12 years of age was my first arrest, breaking into a major shop.
So who was encouraging you, old man?
Oh, man.
Was he?
And when I'd break into places, if there was a safe or a big vault, I'd go back and tell his mates, and his mates would go back and they'd cut the safe.
Oh, so you're doing a bit of recon for
I was
him?
doing recon, basically, yeah, because I could fit between the bars. I'm a little skinny kid, you know, so I was being encouraged, like, good boy, you're a good fella, you know, you're a good kid, you know, give you a shilling or a pound, you know, whatever.
And that's what we were talking about before, finding that acceptance.
Yeah.
And like...
People pleasing.
People pleasing, exactly, yeah.
Getting pats on the back for being a good boy, because I was breaking into factories and then I'd go back and say, oh, there's a factory that's got a big steel door. Next thing, they'd go down there and they'd bust into it and break the steel door opening and whatever, and that sort of stuff. So, you know, and I was always obsessed with guns. I was obsessed with guns, I guess, because, you know, most of the guys that come into the house were wearing shoulder holsters and guns and things like that. And it sounds really funny. When I even hear myself say it sounds like something out of a movie, but it wasn't a very good movie, you know, because I was carrying, 14 years of age, I was carrying a shoulder holster, you know, wearing a gun and a shoulder holster at 14 years of age. You're a baby. When you think about it, my mental capacity was, you know, I shot my first man when I was 17 years of age. You know, it wasn't innocent people, you know, it was all gangster bullshit, you know.
Yeah.
And so that was what I was brought up into. And when I went to Pentridge, it wasn't like, you know, it was scary. Don't get me wrong, it was scary. But I was also, my dad's name's Ron as well. I was Ronnie Isherwood's kid. So, young Ronnie's here. You know, you want this, you want that, you know. In those days, you know, if you got a block of chocolate, it was like $1,000,000, you know. There's no drugs in the system those days. I'd never taken drugs. I didn't really drink that much alcohol those days.
Yeah. So was your dad's reputation helped you? Not helped you, but I guess
well, it did. It did help me, yeah. Because and the painters and dockers, they ran all the crime.
Yeah.
So if you were affiliated with them, everyone was like,
looked after you a bit.
I'm out of here. You know, we're not going near that. We're not going down that road.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, you know, and because of my mental state, and I mean the way, when I say mental state, I was taught, you know, you never back down.
From anything?
From anything. You die before you back down, you know. So it was common knowledge, like a kid my age would be sexually abused going into a prison. Me, I'd stab you in front of the governor.
Wouldn't give a fuck?
I wouldn't give a fuck because consequences were irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because my ego and my pride and my name was, you know, it was more important.
Was that ever put to the test in prison? Or
it was on very half-heartedly sort of, you know, you're a young fellow, you know, were you in the boys' homes? Were you where it's, trying to pretend like they knew me.
Yeah.
And I'd go, mate, you know, I'll fucking stab you to death in front of the governor. Don't talk to me like that, you know. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not saying that, son, you know.
Yeah.
Then someone would say, oh, that's Isherwood's kid, you know.
Yeah.
They go, oh, he's not the full quid, eh? You know, because that's, you know, that was what we wanted them to know that.
Yeah.
I lived by that. That's how I survived, by people knowing that I wasn't the full quid. Because if you did something, the repercussion was going to be massive.
Yeah.
You could beat me up, you could rape me, 4 or 5 years could hold me down, I couldn't stop you. But I would kill each one of you later. Later on, you know, I would have, you know, and I was crazy enough to have done that.
You're I actually ordered your book, Born into a Life of Crime.
Yes.
A I love that. I love that title.
Yeah.
There's a few questions I want to ask you about that, but the title in itself, it's got, you know, the F, life, but the F sort of crossed out, the lie or crime. Is that how it felt for you in that period of your life? Was it, you know...
It was my life.
Was it all a lie?
And it is all a lie.
It is.
It is all a lie. The crime is all a lie.
Yeah.
Crime doesn't pay. I don't care about the financial things, you know. I made more money legally than I ever made in crime. Any money I made in crime, I blew. Any money I made in crime, I didn't respect. I didn't honour. And I didn't deserve. That's being honest. I didn't deserve it. You know, now I work hard and, as you know, we was talking about earlier, I'm not a fraud anymore. I always felt like I was a fraud. The nice thing is nobody can come and take everything off me anymore. You know, I feel like I deserve it now, where I always felt like, not that I knew right from wrong. I didn't really know right from wrong. Well, as a kid, I didn't know right from wrong.
Well, so my next question, when all these things were happening, the crime and stuff, did you ever think that this is wrong?
No, not until 30s, not until I was in my 30s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, not until I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
I'd never had a driver's license till I was 27.
Oh, right.
I'd never owned any. I'd never voted. I'd never had a driver's license. I'd done nothing legal. The only pieces of paper I was on was the police reports and the courts and the prisons. You know, because I'd grown up in those places, and I went into recovery off the heroin because I became a heroin addict. And my father hated two things. He hated drugs and he hated tattoos.
For people watching, Ron's covered in tattoos.
Yeah, I got a full body suit.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, was that a big fuck you to your dad?
Yeah, that was. It was a big fuck you. Because it goes into deep. And my father was physically abusive to my mother and to all of us.
Yeah.
You know, he tried to shoot me for slamming his car door.
Tried to shoot you?
He fired 2 shots at me with the 45 when I was 14 for slamming the front door. 15, I think it was, 14, 15. I got out of the car and I slammed the door.
He was genuinely trying to kill you?
Yeah. He said, don't slam the fucking door. I said, I didn't slam the fucking door. He jumped in, don't talk to me like that, you bang, bang. I jumped the fence and ran away. I stayed out of the house for 2 months. Tried to shoot me for slamming the front door.
And how old were you, 12?
About 14 or 15.
About 14?
Yeah. 14 or 15. I think I was 14.
Yeah. What do you think? I don't know if you've done too much work in what happened to your father. Why he was like that? I don't know if you know.
We don't know, and I don't know. I don't know
if you.
we try to work that out. But my grandfather had already died. My grandfather had died. My grandfather was a returned soldier. He taught me to shoot. He was a very highly decorated Second World War veteran. Now, if anyone knows anything about war, you get highly decorated because you kill a lot of people. That's why you get decorated. You know, someone who's got a lot of decorations and medals and all that stuff is because they killed a lot of people. Yeah. My grandfather was very quiet, extremely, never spoke about the war.
Didn't want to talk about it.
Didn't talk about the war, ever.
Yeah.
And I said to him once, you know, did you ever get shot, Poppy? You know, I'm a little kid. And he said, yeah. I said, where? He said, it went in my bum and come out my mouth because I was running that fast, they couldn't catch me. You know what I mean? Because that was I was like, shut up. Yeah. We're not talking about this conversation.
But in a polite way.
In a polite way of saying, We're not talking. He never ever spoke about the war, but he was super, super highly decorated. Yeah. And he was the one who taught me how to shoot a rifle, and, you know, so he was a marksman. He was a very good shot. Yeah. But my father, as I said, he was a horse breaker. He did get kicked in the head by a horse when he was young. Whether that did the mental health damage, but he was the most sadistic person I've ever met. Really? Yeah, and I've spent 15 years in prisons and with some of the most horrible human beings in the world.
What, he's the most evil?
He's still the most evil person I've ever met. I've never met anyone as evil. Just completely evil. I mean, like...
Not just to you, just
to everybody.
Everybody.
He hated everybody and everything. Just evil. And... people used to have a really bad habit of disappearing. That he'd be hanging out with some bloke, be a mate, and then his mate would disappear off the face of the earth and no one would ever see him again. You know, like, just disappear. Yeah. You know, it was like Kaiser Salsa, gone. Yeah, gone. You know, and, you know, you can put that to however you want, but, you know, you know, and or else other mates of his would be found dead, burnt, you know, put in the boot of their car and then their car would be set on fire. And now there's no evidence to say my father did that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of inferences to say that
Yeah.
if you hung around with my old man, you're pretty unlucky because you ended up dead somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and but he was that evil. I remember times when little people would come to our house, and there might be a 4 or 5, 6-year-old kid. He'd say, "Oh, come here," you know, and the kid would reject him. And 20 minutes later, we might all be somewhere, and then you'd hear the kid screaming. And what happened? Oh, I stood on his foot by accident. He didn't stand on his foot. He stood on his foot. You know, he's got up and walked away. He's just stood on the kid's foot.
Yeah.
You know, and that happened too many times for it to be coincidental. You know, this is when I say he's the most evil person I've ever seen. You know.
What did he flog the shit out of you?
Yeah, consistently. Yeah, he used to bash me.
Yeah.
The last time he bashed me, I was about 14, 15. Because after 14 and 15, I went to prison. You know, like I started to lose control. By 17, I went to prison. He was beating my mother up, and I ran in and said, "Stop hitting my mother." And he just started laughing because he was light heavyweight champion of Australia. You know, he's a big man too, and he was a good fight. And he just bashed the shit out of him. And then he bashed me. He just kicked me in the head and split all my head open. He had no shoes on, so his toenails were kicking me in the head. And I remember when I was laying on the floor, all blood all over me, and he said to my mother, he said, "Wash that piece of shit up and put him in his room." And he left the house.
Fucking
You know what I mean? So.
And there's a story from your book where were you doing selling newspapers?
Yeah.
As a kid?
Yeah, the corner of Johnson Street and Brunswick Street. Yeah,
and then
right.
what did your dad and uncle do?
Uncle Ray and the old man pulled up and said, "Get in the car." And I thought, "Oh, what's going on?" You know, freaked out. Whenever they came, you know, something was wrong.
Yeah.
And they said, "There's some wog kid," that's what we used to call the Italians and the wogs.
Yeah.
Some wog kid selling papers down on the next corner. So we had to go down the next block, which was Nicholson Street, and there was a young, big Italian kid down there selling newspapers. So I had to get out of the car, go over and beat him up, and tell him don't come around my area selling newspapers. And I was probably 10, 11 at that stage.
You could probably fight too, couldn't you?
And I could fight. Yeah, I was boxing.
Boxing.
I was boxing in the tents. You don't know. These days they have a tent where you go around the tent. You fight in tents, and they go to all the different towns and that. It's called brophies now. In the old days, it used to be called Jimmy Sharmans.
Yeah.
Well, I was fighting in those tents since I was 5, 6 years of age, and they used to throw pennies and threepences in. So this is before 66, before the currency changed.
Yeah.
You know, so I've been fighting all my life. And, you know, as I said, we grew up really poor. We stole food on our way to school. Otherwise, we didn't eat because my dad was a bad gambler. So, yeah, fighting was my outlet. I guess I was very confident always, and that kept me in good stead later on in life when I was in prisons and things like that. Because I'm not afraid, you know what?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, there's so many, you know, traumatic things that are happening at such a young age. At that time, looking back on it, did you think about your mental health and your well-being? Were you,
no understanding?
No understanding.
No understanding.
It feels like you live in a state of fear, of like anxiety, or like fucking, I'm going to have to, you know.
Shut down.
Oh, you shut down, dude?
I'd shut down.
What suppressed all your emotions?
I'd suppressed my emotions so bad. I never started taking drugs till 1974. I had drugs in prison where they put me on drugs. They put me on a thing called Largactil.
What's that for?
It's a psych drug. It's like a liquid lobotomy, so they can control you.
What mellow you out and calm you down?
Zonks you.
Oh, does it?
Completely zonk you.
Right.
Like you just dribble. It's like a liquid lobotomy. You're just completely useless. And they put me on that, and that was the first time I ever took a drug. And my mum passed away when I was 19, in 1974. And I went to her funeral. I just got out of prison. I went to prison in 71, and I got out in 74. And I was so detached from reality, from life, from myself, that I couldn't cry at my mother's funeral. I was just standing there and I was looking at everybody crying, and I was thinking, I've got to try to make myself cry.
Yeah.
But there was no emotion, there was no feeling.
So you didn't feel anything?
No.
Fuck.
I couldn't feel nothing. It was so sad. I'd lost the ability to feel because what I'd done, I'd gone into safety mode, into default, and just shut down completely. And I never cried again till I was 27 years of age.
What was that time?
I was in rehab. I was drug-free. And I had a mate of mine coming to visit me. He came in. He got admitted to the rehab, but he went there because he knew I was there. And he came and see me. We're still mates today. He's 77 years of age. And
nice.
We're still mates. We're still ringing each other and that. He's still crazy as shit. Him and I were like pretty bad together. Yeah. And he came and see me. He said, I knew you were here. He said, I don't know what to do. He said, I'm wanted for 2 murders. And I'm like, what? He said, I didn't do them, mate. And he told me the other guy, another guy we knew, he said, so-and-so did the murders. He said, but I was in the car. He said, I'm fucking shitting myself, Yeah. And I said, just stay here, And while you're here, you're safe. Because there used to be a bad policeman called Roger Rogerson. He used to kill everybody. He killed 3 guys that I know. And he just died in prison a few months ago from killing another young guy after he'd left the police force. He was a rogue cop. He just used to kill people and sell heroin. And he's one of the most notorious policemen in Australian history.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Check him out, Roger the Dodger. He's a horrible human being. Horrible human being. Well, Peter said to me, and then after a few days, he got the obsession to use again. He's like, I'd rather go back to using than being here with all these grubs, dogs in rehab, because they all tell on each other and all that bullshit. And he started to walk down the roadway. It was in Goulburn. And I knew where he was going, and I broke into uncontrollable tears. For the first time, I got empathy and compassion. It was such a nice thing, in retrospect. It was such a wonderful thing for me to get this empathy and compassion because I hadn't had it. I hadn't had it.
What a freeing experience.
And I just started crying, and I remember freaking out, thinking, what the hell is this? And so I'll just quickly go back. When I was small, my dad would hit me, and if I cried, he would beat me more. I'll give you something to cry about. So I got to a stage where I couldn't cry. I'd shut down. So I cried when Pete was leaving, and it was a breakthrough. That's when I started to thaw out. And
do that inner work.
I started to do that inner work, and I stayed clean off the drugs for 10 months, and then I relapsed on alcohol because I thought, it's only alcohol, it's not like heroin, and I'm allergic to all chemicals. The last time I had a drink of alcohol was in 1982.
Amazing.
I left the rehab, had a couple of drinks with the boys that had left the rehab the day before, took a couple of pills, stole a car because I was going to go into an armed robbery, crashed the car. The police came. I stole the police car.
You stole the police car?
Yes, because I told the police when they came. It was in Canberra. It was a big orange, traffic control car when you come for crashes. And they got me out of the, I'm up the road. Of course, I ran away from the stolen car, and they're like, "Oh, you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." They put me in the back of the car. It's not a locked up car. It's like a transit van. And I was like, "Oh, my mate, he was driving. He's hurt. He's in there somewhere. He staggered away." So the 2 cops going looking for my mate, but they left the motor running. So I jumped over the front seat and took off. It's a big orange van with federal police written on the side of it. It's just insanity, It's like some really bad movie. And I drive it back to my mate's place. Of course, someone's ringing up. They see this.
Park it in the driveway.
I did.
Did you?
I ran into the carport and hit the carport. Just hide in the carport. And I took their scanner, and I ran upstairs, and I'm like, I just got away from the cops, And then I hear, we found the car. It's in such and such. The police said he's in unit such and such. And I went, oh no! I just put my hands on my head, and the door got kicked down, and they come and arrested me. So that was the last time I drank. Yeah. So I don't drink anymore. And
so going back to your old man, and this might be a silly question, but was there ever a time where he showed empathy or love at all? No, not once.
Not once in my whole life. Not until the day he died. Last time I seen my father was in 2003. I was in trial for my last charge, and my son. I had an older son who was born and he got a brain disorder, and he was sick. He was in a coma. They'd put him into an induced coma. He used to go into grand seizures. He used to have fits, and they'd put him into an induced coma. And it was halfway through the trial, and the judge gave me the day to go down to visit my son because they thought he was going to pass away. And I went down to visit my son, and I came out of visiting my son, and my old man was there with his new wife, and he looked at me and he said, "How you going?" I said, "I'm all right." He said, "How's your trial?" I said, "Not good." He said, "Good luck." I said, "Yeah, you too." walked away. And
That was it.
last time I ever spoke to him, he died while I was in prison.
Your old man did?
Yeah, he died while I was in prison. This time, in about 2008 or something, he died. So,
Did you hate him?
yeah,
You did?
yeah, more than words can say.
Really?
Yeah, I only have one regret in this whole world. I said I didn't have a regret. I've got one regret that I didn't kill him.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I asked my mum. Remember I told you he bashed me. He bashed my mum. I said to Mum, I said, when he comes home, I'm going to blow his head off because I had guns. We had guns my whole life. I said, I'm going to shoot him. I said, when the cops come, you tell the cops he was beating you up and I protected you. And my mum didn't say, I can't kill your father. She said, he's not worth going to jail for, Ronnie. And that's the only regret I have. That's the honest truth. That's the only regret I have in my whole life, is the fact, would my life have been different? I don't know. My mum passed away when I was 19. And the doctors, she had a heart attack. And, I've always thought she died of a broken heart because she was devastated.
That you went to prison?
Oh, she was devastated. I went
Yeah.
to prison. She was devastated that I started to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah.
He'd been abusing her daughter. My father had been abusing her daughter because she'd had a previous daughter who had a child to him.
Really?
Yeah, so it was really, really mixed up stuff. And it was a secret that we had to pretend that Mum was pregnant and that Mum had... See, I didn't know it was his child till many, many years later.
Oh, right. So he was a sexual...
So he was a predator as well.
yeah.
He was a predator as well.
Oh, right.
And so, there was just so much undercurrent. And because he's a gangster and he's really well respected and he's a tough guy.
In the community,
in
but...
the gangster
they would have
community,
known, would they?
No.
No.
And it used to, in the end, when I became a man and blokes would go, oh, your dad, I'd say, don't even talk about him. I said, he's a fucking pedophile.
Yeah, you guys
a
have no
woman
idea.
beater.
Mm.
I said, and a child beater. I said, don't tell me he's a good bloke. And you'd see him, they'd think, oh, wish I'd have brought that little story up, about how good a bloke your old man was.
Yeah.
Because my old man, as I said to you, he was the most evil human being I've ever met. And I've met some serial killers. I've met some really, really sick human beings in the systems over the years, and none of them were as evil as him.
It's. I have a similar thing with my old man. He came onto the podcast and he told me some pretty sad things that happened to him by his old man. He was the same. He came back from the war, alcoholic. Dad said he would fall asleep to the sound of his dad raping his mum.
Yep.
Beating his sisters, beating his brothers, to the point where a lot of his siblings committed suicide early on. And I had Dad on the podcast, and he used to hate it because he would have relatives or friends of the family would say to him, "Fuck, you look like your old man," and Dad would just. He said it was like a knife to the heart. He goes, "Don't you ever fucking say that I look like an old man." He hated it. He hated that people thought he looked like him or he resembled him. All Dad wanted to do was be the exact opposite. And him being a father, he was like, whatever situation I'm in, whatever my dad would do or did, I'll do the exact opposite. And I think that would be a good dad. And I asked him, all these years, he never spoken about it, never talked to me about it, never really talked to his friends or even Mum about it. Even when he came on, Mum was like, I didn't know half the stuff that happened to him. And I asked him, did you have to forgive him or learn to forgive him just to move on? And because he's the same thing, he's just like, I fucking hate him. I never wanted to please him. I never wanted to do anything. I just wanted to get out of the house so I wouldn't see him. And it stumped him. He didn't know. All these years, he's 60, he's 69, 70 now. And all the years, he never thought about that forgiving him might sort of let go of the things that he'd been holding on. During this process of recovery and did you have to learn to forgive him?
No.
That's what he said.
I don't forgive him.
Yeah.
I would like to know why. I'd like to know what happened. That question you asked me was the best question I've been asked in all the interviews I've ever done. This is the best question I've been asked. And because everyone's dead, I don't know why. There has to be a reason. I don't know if people are born bad. I really don't. And as I said, I've been, I spent a lot of time in prison with a lot of murderers and a lot of rapists, and rapists are not my favourite type of people. Anyone that harms women and harms kids and things like that, they don't usually associate with me because, to me they were game You know, to me though, you know, if I was having a bad day, in the old days when I wanted to harm somebody,
That'd be the punching bag. Yeah,
I'd look for that person. If I heard someone was a pedophile, I'd go out of my way to have a meeting with them. You know, to have some sort of conversation with them where I could express my dislike for that sort of, and I guess it was through my father. You know, indirectly, maybe I was trying to think I was beating up my father. You know, I was punishing him. You know, because but you know, I have beautiful children, so, and I know how protective I am today. You know, like, and I say, you know, I was talking to Gary Jubelin about it, and Gary's an ex-cop, homicide squad copper, and things like that, and we were talking, and he's saying, you know, what a miracle, how much you've changed. I said, but if you touch my kids, I'll kill you.
Yeah. So that's the thing, like, you know, I don't even talking to you and hearing this story, even meeting you, you know, previous to this, I just thought, you know, such a polite, respectful, approachable person, and then hearing sort of what you've gone through, you know, do you feel like you were just a good person doing bad things?
Yes.
You do?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Good person in a bad situation.
I was never a bad person.
Yeah.
I was a good person doing bad things, even though I didn't know that. I actually thought I was a bad person.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I thought, you know, I thought I was evil. I thought that, I wanted you to think I was evil. And you know what I really was? I was a scared little boy.
Inside, yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the honest truth. The more violent people are, I believe, the more scared they are. The more prone you are to throw punches, the more fear that you have inside of you that you're going to be beaten.
That insecurities, yeah.
Yes, yeah. And it all comes back to self-worth, you know, so.
You mentioned earlier on that you are, you know, conditioned into violence, you know, and I think a child's environment plays such a key role in their development. At what age did you commit your first crime? And then when did it, I guess, escalate from there?
My first crime of conviction of being caught was 12 years of age.
12 years. 12
years of age. No, it wasn't on my own. I had a crew. I always had a crew, you know. I was always entrepreneurial. You know, I always had this, you know, even back before I was 12, we'd go into old houses and take the lead off the roof and the copper out of the walls and sell the scrap metal.
Fuck.
You know, out of houses that had been, you know, demolished.
Yeah.
I'd go and pull all the scrap metal off them and sell it because...
Anything and everything.
We had to make money. You had to make money. You had to make... You know, that was my whole upbringing, was you had to make money. You know, I had to survive. I had to provide for my sisters. I had to provide for me. I had to provide... And I got a 77-year-old sister, the one that my old man used to abuse, and her daughter, who's I call my little sister, she's 50... I mean, she's 59 years of age. And I still care for my kids, my sisters, and I still protect them. And I'm still the, you know, I'm still the man of the house. I'm still the alpha male of the family. Where, you know, if there's a problem, I'm going to fix it.
I'll sort it.
Yeah, I'll sort it. You know, as these days, you know, they're very stable human beings, and you know, they're beautiful people. But I'm still the male. You know, I'm still the big brother, and I'm the big brother, even though I'm younger than the oldest sister. But, you know, I speak to them every week, every other week still. When I wrote my book, I had to go to both of them and say, because my little sister didn't know that she was my big sister's daughter. And in 1994, 95, my big sister split up from her husband, and she had nowhere to live, and I had a couple of houses at Tanawa that I developed down there, and I said, you come and live at this house. She went, come and lived at the house, and I said, I think I need you to get Susan up here and tell her the truth.
Oh, really?
This before he died. And she goes, what? I said, I don't think you should get off the hook. I said, I think you should tell Susie the truth. So I flew my little sister up and put them both in a property at Tanawa, where they were stuck in a house together for 3 weeks, and talk it out. You know, and, you know, I don't regret it. I think it was a really good thing to do. I think it would have been a really hard conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And then my eldest sister had 2 older boys who she had to explain to them that, you actually got a sister that you didn't know about, that you think's your auntie, but it's really your sister. And, you know, but it was a conversation that I thought that needed to be addressed before he got away, because, he has to be held responsible.
Absolutely.
And I never spoke to him. As I said, I spoke to that 20 seconds,
How did it all go down, if you don't mind me asking?
They're good. They look, she calls her mum now, and, and they contact each other. Of course, they're not going to be that close.
Yeah.
They're close, but they're not,
Yeah.
that close. They're very similar. It's really funny when you see the dynamics.
They
are,
Yeah.
When you sort of see them together, you can see it's mother and daughter. It's not,
Yeah.
But look, I'm blessed that my sisters know the truth.
Yeah.
Both of them have. And when I wrote the book, I went to them and said, especially to my older sister, she was the one being abused. I said, "Here's this manuscript. You read it. And tell me what you think." And she said, "I love it. Publish it." Yeah. And my little sister said, "Whatever you want to do, you do what you do."
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's good. I think it was a very clearing thing for my whole family, even my cousins, my aunties and all that. They all knew, but everyone pretended they didn't because I was so much fear of my father. So it was a very cleansing. I think my book was one of the most therapeutic things I've done for myself,
I feel the exact same way about doing this podcast.
Yeah.
It's like, selfishly, I started it for myself.
Yep.
Trying to express emotions or feelings or connecting with people and having conversations with people that I, wish I had, maybe in private with my dad.
Yep.
But like we spoke about it, it was almost the perfect excuse to sit down and have conversations with people that you've always wanted to talk and ask questions that you've always wanted to ask, but you may be too scared or anxious about what are they going to say, how am I going to react. But in a podcast setting, this is where it started for me, was having these, difficult conversations with people that I've always wanted to do it with. And then it's kind of, it was therapeutic for me. Like, it was emotional, but especially that first season, when having a lot of friends and family come on, it was definitely very therapeutic for me as well.
I think when we was talking in the gym, I told you I did one with my daughter.
Yeah.
I didn't know half the shit she told me. She was living in my house. She's talking about sneaking out and this and taking drugs. I'm thinking, where was I? Where the hell was I? Was I really that, I don't know. At the time, I'm supposed to know everything. I've worked in drug and alcohol. I've done this, I've done that. I'm supposed to be this.
Yeah, I've done it all.
The wise monkey. I had my hands over my eyes,
And that's the thing, I would love to talk to you about sort of your time in prison, but also that period of your life where you were addicted to drugs. I think that's something that I kind of resonate with my story. But what led you sort of going to prison at 17? Was it attempted murder, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a shootout with the police, and one of the guys that was involved in the shootout with the police, he'd also told the police about some other gangsters that had been shot 6 months beforehand. So at one stage there, I was charged with 4 attempted murders, 2 used firearms, of course, grievous bodily harms, use of firearm to prevent lawful apprehension, and the break-in is. My life didn't look like it was going to get very well for a long time, and I came out of jail, and my mum passed away. I got out in 74, very early 74. My mum passed away a few months later. I started using heroin a few months later.
Is that your coping mechanism, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because my mother was my only contact with humanity.
Yeah, right.
She was the only person I'd ever loved. I'd never loved anybody in my life. To me, love was a weakness. It was a. If you loved somebody, and somebody wanted to hurt you,
they'd use that.
They could use that. If you love somebody, you become vulnerable.
Did you ever see it happen?
People use.
Yeah.
Oh shit, yeah. Well, you become vulnerable. Just say you've got a girlfriend and she lives down at Nambour, and I'm looking for you. I'm going to go to Nambour and sit at the front of your girlfriend's house. You're going to come there. And when you come there, see, when we was involved in the painters and dockers stuff, which I got involved in, you'll see in the book, I was involved with a guy called Billy Longley, and he was the president of the painters and dockers, and they were shooting each other everywhere. So just because you get you're involved in this world, shooting people or whatever, then all of a sudden you change your lifestyle. They didn't change their lifestyle. So just because you might have shot their brother 10 years ago, but if you're my brother and you've shot my brother, I'm not going to forget about it.
Yeah, right.
So if I get the position to put you in a position, I'm going to square up, what we call square up. I'm going to even the ledger.
So there's no escaping the lifestyle at that time?
At that time, I did think there was.
Yeah.
I think there's now. Lucky thing is, most of them are dead by now. You know what I mean? I outlived them.
I was going to say you've outlived everyone.
I've outlived everyone because
Yeah, yeah.
I got off the drugs and I got healthy.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but except for when I'm on active addiction, I trained my whole life. I think it's so important for my mental health.
Exercise.
Exercise.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, and spiritual exercise. They've all got to be trained.
Well, we're going to go into that because, you talked about start experimenting with drugs. What was your drug of choice, I guess?
Heroin.
Was it?
Heroin.
Yeah.
I was trying to kill the pain. See, heroin's an anesthetic.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to anaesthetise, that was the pain of life. Because my life was pain. I knew nothing but pain. What's love? Pain. What's a relationship? Pain. What's friendship? Pain. You got to remember, I'm 17 years of age. I get charged with attempted murder of police. Then my best mate, who allegedly I'd shot some guys because of him, gave me up.
Dobbed you in.
Yeah, he dobbed me in. The cops didn't even know about the other guys. He dobbed me in for these other two guys.
That's the lie of crime you're talking about.
Yeah. And then when I went back to jail in 2002, it was over another mate that I went to help. And he set me up again. So, there's no such thing as loyalty in crime. It's all, it's just a lie. The whole world of crime is a lie. And that's why I try so hard to say to young guys, mate, honestly, I had a mate of mine, Russell Manser, who was big on TikTok and Instagram and all that. Yeah. Russell did 23 years in prison for armed robberies. It worked out, I think, all the years he'd done and all the money he earned, I think it was $17,000 a year.
Nothing.
He could have got more work at McDonald's.
Yeah.
For the amount of time he'd served in prison and the amount of money he earned. Yeah. I think it worked out $17,000 a year or something.
He'd be filthy about that too, wouldn't he?
I used to take the piss out of him all the time. Yeah.
So when you were using, how did it make you feel that first time? For me, when I was never big on sort of drugs and alcohol at all until probably about 20, I think I was 21 when I first tried, and it was the most euphoric feeling that I'd ever felt. It was, in that moment, it was, you talked about feelings and emotions. I felt completely free and at ease, and nothing was going on in my head for the first time. I wasn't worried about the past or dwelling over the future. It was just, in that moment, I felt present. Yeah. And that feeling for the next 10 years was the most addictive feeling that I was chasing. Yeah, the sound of silence.
The sound of silence.
Yeah.
I'm a big Pink Floyd fan, and they brought out a song called Comfortably Numb.
Yeah, numb.
That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be comfortably numb. But the trouble is, with all chemicals, they stop working. They stop working. They stop
having that same effect. Yeah,
it stops. The effect stops. And then you start thinking, the dope must be cut. Oh, I'm not getting the right shit.
I've got to have more. Got to take more. Yeah,
I need more. I need more. I need more. And but what it is our awareness becomes stronger. The dope doesn't get any weaker. People call it a tolerance. I don't believe it's a tolerance. I believe it's our spirit fighting, saying, no, this is not what you need to do to take care of this issue. You need to deal with it. I believe your secrets die in the light of day. That's why I'm doing what we're doing now. That's why I do my podcast. That's why I wrote the book. That's why I'm transparent. When I meet people that don't know my past, I tell them my past. And sometimes they get a little bit shocked. They go, well, why are you telling me? I say, so that no one else can. So that nobody else can. Because if somebody else tells them, it becomes a dirty secret. If I tell them, it's the truth.
It's the truth, yeah. Yeah.
And I can tell them the real truth.
Yeah.
Not
Chinese whispers.
Not the Chinese whisper. Oh, did you hear about what, he ate 3 chickens' heads and then he killed this, Come on, guys, I got an example. Because I had a really good successful company up here building high end show cars. I was building a car. I'm not going to say his name, for a really influential guy on the Sunshine Coast. I'm talking about this guy that's massive up here, a very high class businessman. And he came to me and he asked me he bought one car off me, then he wanted me to build him another car, and I said, it's going to cost you seven figures, like blah, blah, blah. And I said, but before we do this, I said, you and I need to go and have a coffee. And he said, oh, yeah, okay, what do you want to do? So we'll go and have a coffee. And we sat down and I said, this is who I am. This is who I was, but this is who I am. And he said, why you want to tell me this? I said, because someone else is going to tell you. Someone in the council, one of the politicians is going to say to you, what's your relationship with him? I said, no, I want you to ever say, this is my relationship with him, and yes, I know. And he kept on doing the business with me. We're still mates.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and we're still mates, and I've got a few mates that are very high up in property developing in this on the coast, and that as soon as they heard I was sick, I was straight to my house.
Love that.
What can we do to help you?
Yeah.
Because judge me on what I do, not what I did.
Yeah.
Because I'm not proud of what I did. Do I wish I didn't do some of that stuff? My word, I do. Do I wish I never went back into crime? Fucking oath. More than you can believe. They say, what did you lose? I lost my self-respect. I lost my standing in the community, but I lost my self-respect more than anything else. Not what you worried about me, it's what I worried about me.
Did you hate yourself?
Yeah, when I went back to jail, I hated myself.
In 2002?
Yeah, I hated myself. I hated myself for going back because I'd come so far.
So far, yeah.
I'd come so far and I'd accomplished so much. And it was a momentary lapse of reason that I said, yes, I'll help you. And then it turned into a shit fight because I'm a control freak and he fucked it up, so I took control. And then...
What was it for?
Cocaine smuggling.
Yeah.
And to me, and this is going to sound really fucking sad and it's true, my idea of cocaine, it's not even a drug, because that was my idea those days. Like, it's a girl's drug. I'm a heroin addict. I've ever tried cocaine once in the 70s and I didn't like it. But that wasn't like cocaine off the streets, that was cocaine from a pharmacy. I thought, this is a rubbish drug. This is for numbing your teeth or getting eye operation, just rubbish. What's this stuff? And, I honestly underplayed the devastation of what cocaine does to people because it wasn't a big drug those days. When I started, anyway, I can put it, when I started being involved in smuggling of cocaine a long time ago, because don't get me wrong, I'm not an innocent victim here. I was involved in smuggling. I was involved in all that stuff back in the day. It was like, it's not even a fucking drug, but it is. No, because then I've seen the devastation of what it can do to my friends, what I've seen it do to some really successful business people, mates of mine that just lost everything because of this filthy, rotten cocaine. Because I was blaming the drug as the problem, not addiction as the problem, and not looking at the mental health issues that cocaine exacerbates. Because, we all have mental health issues.
It's almost like the cocaine's the remedy for the issue.
Yeah.
You're using
it's a symptom.
It's a symptom, exactly.
It's a symptom of your addiction problem, If you hadn't have been cocaine, it would have been something else.
Yeah.
And when I went back to prison in 2002, I seen the devastation of drug addiction. Because you got to remember, I hadn't been involved with drugs for 20 years, and I hadn't seen what a drug addict looked like. It was 16 years since I'd taken drugs, and it was a small period of time that I relapsed. So I had this illusion that I'm not harming anybody. It's lawyers and doctors are snorting a bit of coke, judges, fucking prosecutors. Who cares? It's not even harming people. It's not like the junkie like me.
Just Panadol. Let us, you've got
a
bit of a headache.
Yeah, it's not like, and that was another thing I used to always have this justification. The pharmaceutical companies, like, they're the biggest drug dealers in the world, and it's true. But that doesn't mean that I have to become a drug dealer, And I really think, for me personally, I understand now why they give such big sentences, because it does destroy communities, it does destroy families, it does destroy the whole society, you know, the whole fabric of society. But so does alcohol. And I'm justifying it here.
Yeah.
But so does alcohol, and so does gambling, and so does cigarettes. But they can tax them, so that's okay. My issue used to be, if Wendell Saylor got pinched with some coke, it was a recreational drug. If I got pinched with coke, it was a narcotic.
Yeah.
So which one is it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you
The
can't.
double standards, isn't it?
The double standards.
Yeah.
And I was a rebel, you know, and
Yeah.
I'd grown up really ignorant and that. But today, there's no justification.
During your time in addiction, what was your lowest point? Was there a time where your mental health really plummeted?
I ended up homeless, living in squats in King's Cross, sleeping on a dirty old mattress that was in an abandoned house, with a girl that was working on the street, with a transvestite sleeping at the end of the bed. You know, like that was one of the worst, and that was an escapee from prison at that time.
You escaped prison?
Yeah, I'd escaped from prison, and that's where I was staying. You know, I was in a squat and in King's Cross. Like, I wasn't going very far. I was, you know, I was still hanging around the cross because that's where the drugs were.
Yeah.
But the lowest part of addiction for me was the only time I ever thought about suicide in my whole life is when I relapsed in 1981. When I told you in 82 when I drank last time I drank alcohol.
Yeah. You were that dirty on yourself.
I was that. Well, what I thought was that was the first time I ever got clean. I thought I can't get clean. I just can't keep using. And I was in the cells at Belconnell, that's Canberra, in the cells in Canberra, and I thought I'm going to hang myself on Saturday because that's when it was the slackest. The screws were the slackest, the prison officers. And I thought I'm going to hang myself. And I'd never thought about killing myself all my life because I've always thought killing yourself's a really cowardly thing to do because you leave your family with all the pain. And I thought, I'm going to kill myself. You know, I can't get out. I can't keep using and I can't stop.
Can't change.
And this is a true story. This is when I believe there's something out there greater than us. And on the Saturday morning, I had a visit from the girl that I'd run away from rehab with. And she told me she was pregnant. And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah, I'm pregnant. And she'd gone back to rehab. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So I went back to the yard and I thought, I can't kill myself. She's got this baby.
I've got something to live for.
And they're 42-year-old twin daughters. They're 43 this year.
Are they?
They're my twin daughters, yeah. And one of them's in recovery. She's 17 years clean. And she's a nurse and she's really, really good human being. The other one's a nanny and she's a really good human being. And, yeah, it saved my life.
It's interesting because my next question was going to be, was it a constant fear of just like, I'm going to get caught here? Looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, well, when I escaped, it was ridiculous. I escaped from an island. There's an island in New South Wales prisons. It was called Milson's Island. It's up the Hawkesbury River. As I said, I've always been super fit. So I'm in prison, and I had this idea. This is our disease brain. This is the addict brain.
Yeah.
It was a 5 or 7 kilometre swim.
That's far.
To the Brooklyn Bridge,
Yeah.
which is on the Pacific Highway. I'm thinking, I can swim to that bridge, easy. And at night time, you're locked in the screws. You don't get locked in at night. The screws locked themselves in on the island, and the crims walked around the island all night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was only 2 screws on the island. They'd lock themselves in the island, right? So it was fucking crazy. And anyway, I thought I could swim to Brooklyn, hitchhike into town, score some dope, come back, and swim back to the bridge and
put yourself back to bed.
They won't even know I'm gone, right? This is my fucking madness. So I forgot one little thing. It's tidal waters. So when I left to swim, it was low tide. It was sand. It was completely low tide right out in the mud. By the time I'd got it, the tide was coming in. So I left at 11 o'clock at night. I got to the bridge something like 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, it was a 5-hour swim to go 5 kilometres because I was swimming against the tide.
Good on you for fucking making it.
Yeah. So, you know, I was an escapee. By the time I'd already got to King's Cross, I was already wanted. It was a 6 o'clock head check. Would have found out that Ronnie's not in bed. Ronnie's no longer
can't
with
make
us.
it back.
Yeah. So, you know,
because that addiction was so high that you know, at that level that you know,
I wanted to get on.
You wanted to get on. It wasn't to escape, to sort of go back to
No.
home life. It was,
No.
I wanted to.
I want to score.
I want to score.
I wasn't going to Montana. I was going to King's Cross.
Yeah.
You know, and I got pinched in King's Cross 21 days later.
Did you?
And the headlines of the paper, and this is where a little light bulb went on. This is even though this is in 1970, I think it's 1978, something like that. The little light bulb went on. It said, rogue animal recaptured.
Rogue animal.
Recaptured. That was the front page of the paper. And me handcuffed on the side of the road with blood all over me from the police chasing that.
That's that label of you.
Yeah, and I looked at it and I was a little bit angry. I was thinking, how dare you call me a rogue animal? But when you look back, that's exactly what I'd become. I'd become animalistic, man. My way of life, my living, my thoughts, my survival mode. Everything was about survival. Everything was about survival. My whole life was. When I look back, I was a scared little boy, who was trained, because I was trained with weapons. I went and did powder monkey courses to learn about gelignite and explosives, and I was trained in all the wrong areas. And I was, my hero was my grandfather, who was a sniper, war hero. And I always go like that, war hero, because war hero only means one thing to me. It means that you're good at killing things, you know. So I had this, my whole concept of a male was wrong, because my old man's concept was, if a woman acts like a bloke, you treat her like a bloke, you just belt her. You know, everything was wrong. My concept of love was wrong. I didn't even know what love was, so I had to re-educate and learn about life on life's terms. I had to be educated about love and compassion. My children are the greatest gifts. Those twin daughters really taught me the line. Yeah, they taught me my life lessons. You know, my kids, they're 43. They've never seen me drunk or stoned, which is nice. Even though I relapsed from 93, because I'm clean nearly 39 years again now. But they've never seen me. And they were devastated when I went back to jail.
I bet.
Because they didn't know I was a criminal. Well, I was, but I wasn't. You know, I mean, I wasn't. You know, I wasn't committing crime every day and all that. You know, and I was still a criminal. I still associated with the crims, and I still, you know, had all the bullshit trimmings of, you know, being able to go to the nightclub and parking out the front, and everyone, you know, even though I wasn't using drugs, I was using everything else but drugs. You know, the fast cars and the women, and you know, and because of my association, you know, John Ibrahim now is a big name. John was a little kid.
It's almost glamorised, that life now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sad.
You see all the underbelly TV shows, and it's all dramatised. And
I know 99% of those people I know.
Oh dear.
You know, it's like, it's not real.
Not real.
You know?
Not accurate.
John, not at all. John was a pretty smart kid. He was only a kid, and he was really respectful to me. And I won't have anything bad to say about John Ibrahim.
Yeah.
The rest of the ones, well, that's their business, other brothers and all that. But, you know, and all that Melbourne cruise, you know.
Do you go back? Have you been back?
I went back to Mick Gatto's, he's got an autistic grandson, and I went down for a fundraiser for him 3 years ago. And it was like an old reunion. I didn't really...
Didn't like it?
No, I didn't really like it. It's not who I am.
Yeah,
I don't live there anymore,
You talked about, you know, your twin girls. You know, was that a pivotal moment that, you know, changed that life of addiction?
Yeah, it gave me something to live for.
Did it?
It gave me a reason to live, and it gave me something to love until I could learn to love myself. You know, that was the truth. I've always had a lot of regret for my son, my boy that died, because he was born in 1974. So I had a lot of shame in it because I'd left. But you know, I never loved his mother. You know, his mother wasn't my wife. Even though I married her because she was pregnant. In the old days, it was you got her pregnant, you've got to marry her. You know, and all that sort of stuff. And plus, it got me out of jail early, and so all the motivation was wrong. Where today, I have a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old. This is the first time I ever planned to have children. You know, we actually planned it. I was married to my wife for a couple of years before we said, okay, we're going to have kids and that, you know. So we went, you know, and this is at 60 years of age, I'm going through this, I'm being grown up. I'm a bit slow, you know. But Yeah, it's just my life today is just out of control. My life,
In a good way.
in the best way, the best way possible. You know, I got out of jail in 2012, and I got out of jail with a lot of uncertainty. I knew I wouldn't use drugs again. I knew I wouldn't go back to crime. There's no way. I don't make the same mistake and expect different results. I'm fully aware that if I go back to crime, I lose everything. I'm fully aware that if I pick up a drug, I die. You know, I die emotionally, I die spiritually, and if I'm lucky, I die physically. But I die spiritually first. The spiritual part's the biggest part.
And yeah, we'll get into that definitely. You know, you've spent the last, 42 years working with recovering addicts.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most common misconception that people have about addicts and those who struggle with addiction?
That they're bad people.
That they're bad people.
They're not bad people. They're good people doing bad things.
Is it good people that have had bad things happen to them?
Some of them. Some of them are. Some of them are. See, Dr. Gabor Mate talks about it's not the trauma, it's how the trauma affected you.
How you respond to the trauma.
How you respond to the trauma.
Okay.
How it goes inside your body, you know. And I believe in organ memory. Triggers, you hear people call a lot of words these days we call triggers. Oh, that triggers me. Was your drug of choice cocaine?
Cocaine, MDMA.
Okay.
So
if you
ecstasy,
go somewhere and you smell that smell, it triggers you.
Yeah. No, I it's a quick little story. Me and Jordan, my partner, we went down to Fortitude Valley to watch a concert there, and I hadn't been back there since the days I was living there, and we were walking through there, and I just had this such uncomfortable feeling, and sort of looking around at people partying and getting into trouble and stuff, and I just had the worst feeling. I could see people sort of doing lines and stuff like that, and I started sweating, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening?" In my own head, like I wasn't telling Jordan. She was like, "You good?" I'm like, "Oh, let's just watch this band. Let's just go in there and let's just go home." She's like, "All right." And then on the drive home, she was like, "What was up? Like, you didn't seem like you liked that." And I was like, that there was the first time I'd been back to where it was for me, and it was the most uncomfortable feeling. I felt so anxious, and I just didn't want to be there. And it took me back to that time that I hated. And I didn't realize that there's still work to do of forgiving myself, making peace with what that was for me. Yeah. And I thought I was doing the work, or I thought I've done enough. But that moment there, I realized that, talking about the triggers or something is just, it brought me back to a time in my life that I fucking hated. Yeah. That I try to ignore.
Yeah, I don't believe it ever goes away. I believe our ability to cope with it gets better. I don't believe the trigger ever goes away. My mum died in 1974. I still miss it like it was yesterday. I just cope with it better. I'm never going to forget that my mum died. And I believe it's the same with addictions, with these tools that we use to survive, because that's what most times they are for. We have an affair with them. We have a love affair with them. Look, we didn't use drugs because we hated them. We used drugs because we loved them. Anyone that says, "Oh, I hated drugs," they're lying. They're lying to themselves. What? So you gave up your family, your career, your job, your everything for something you hated? What are you, a nut? It's not true. It's not true. That's dishonest. I absolutely loved not feeling. I loved the no responsibility. I loved the,
Same.
But it's not sustainable and it's not real.
It's a lie, isn't it?
It's a lie.
Yeah.
And that's why, I call that book, Born to the Lie of Crime. And all addiction is a Band-Aid for what's going on really with us. When I say addiction, all drug use and alcohol use and, my kids can get lost in their stupid iPads because they're addicted to the iPads. Is it a harmful addiction? We don't know yet.
And that's what it is now these days, isn't it? That social media addiction that you just can't put the phone down. The validation and getting liked and getting...
How many likes did I get?
How many likes, yeah. How many people viewed it, and it's just like... Yeah. People put their self-worth into something online that's not
Yeah.
Not real.
Yeah, I've said this for a while now. I think we'll be treating, not me, but in another 30, 40 years' time, people will be treating people for social media addictions.
We're already heading that way.
Yeah.
I went and
there is
watched
for kids. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about your book, what motivated you to share your story publicly?
I think it's a story that needed to be told. It really did. In a way, it was don't judge me until you know where I've come from. So I'm quite proud of myself. I'm really proud of where I've come from.
It should be, yeah.
From where I've come from to where I am today, I'm extremely proud of myself.
How many people make it out of that alive?
No way. Not one guy that I grew up with is alive.
Really?
Not one guy. I think there might be one. I'm not sure, but I think, like my whole childhood, no one's alive. All the people that I used drugs with, there's only one that's clean. That's my best mate, the guy that I grew up with. I spoke to him this morning before I came here. We used together and we've been clean together. He's the godfather of my 43-year-old daughters. I call his mum. When I got clean, I went and lived in his mum's backyard. They're Greeks. So I grew up in the Greek backyard in Bellamore in Sydney.
The best food, though.
The Greeks. Best food,
I love it, yeah.
And, his mother and father taught me how to be a parent.
Really?
Yeah.
So they were your role models in terms of how to be a
parent.
How to be a father, yeah.
And my daughters were only 3 years of age, and I was a single father. So I'd take the kids to my place every second weekend, which was a little room out the back with no hot water.
Yeah.
The shower was outside in the back of the garage, and it was so humble. That's why, and I had nothing. That's being true. And my best mate, his parents took us in, and we smoked cigarettes those days. And whenever he complains to my mate, I say to him, "Mate, do you remember we used to go to the ashtray of the car and get the bumpers out and get the tobacco?" I said, he lives in a $5 million home in San Susi, overlooking the water. He's driving his new Mercedes. And I say, "Mate, don't you dare even start to whinge to me." And that's when he's not in his Greek house in Greece, because he's got a house over there on the water in the Mediterranean. Mate, and he's worked his ass off too. He's worked in restaurants, and it's funny. All my mates that I got clean with, we all went different ways, and all of us end up really successful people because we dealt with our addictions, and we're all still close. We all speak to each other every week.
That's awesome.
And to me, it's about connection. You've got to have people, like-minded people that understand you. As I said before, it's no good to me telling you about rugby union. If I can't play it, I can't teach it. I get really frustrated when social media at the moment, it's got all these super coaches on there. From where do you draw your experience? Where do you draw your information from? You're talking about stuff that then, and I think it's dangerous.
There's so much misinformation and armchair experts out there, isn't it? It's flooding the market.
Scary.
Yeah, it is scary.
Well, I've stopped, because I had a program that I used to charge people to do my program. And it was mostly for people that were in corporates that couldn't go to 12-step programs and couldn't come out and say, "I've got a problem," because they'd lose their job or their social stigma. So we started this program, and it was $5,000 for 30 days. 30 days, $5,000. It's not much. It's $165 a day. It's 1 hour a day, face to face, and it's very taxing on me, because it's like having a leech on your neck. Someone in early recovery, they're just trying to suck information, and I closed it because there's so many places out there advertising. And I don't feel good doing it. I do it because I love doing it, not for the money. As soon as I put a financial thing in there, I lose what it's about.
That element about it.
I lose what it's about, But at the time when I was doing it, I was sick and I wasn't working, and I needed an income to feed my family. And then it conflicted with what I believe in. I believe, you've got to give this away. This is if I win lotto tomorrow, I'll still keep doing what I do today. I'll still keep helping people, because that's what helps me.
That's what fills you up.
Yeah.
There's a word that came to mind when I was reading your story, and it's redemption. The action of saving or being saved from sin, error, or evil. You've worked so hard to turn your life around. Do you believe that it's attainable for everyone?
Unless you're constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself, yes.
That's the requirement.
The requirement is you must be honest with yourself. Yep. I believe anybody that can't change is constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves, because you can't fix it unless you own it.
It's like you got to know the problem first before you can fix it.
I'll give you an example. There's a Porsche sitting out the front. You're sitting out the front having a coffee, and I walk past and I go, fucking nice Porsche, mate. You go, yeah, thanks. And it's got a flat tyre. And I walk past again on the way back and I say, geez, the guy who owns that's a dickhead. He still hasn't fixed his tyre. And you go, yeah. And I come past an hour later and you're still sitting there. And I say, that fucking guy. And you go, yeah, mate, it's mine. Until you tell me it's yours, then I say, why haven't you changed the tyre? You say, well, I can't find it. I've opened the front. There's no fucking motor there. There's nothing there. I say, mate, here, come here. This is where the jack is. Here's the wheel brace. And I show you how to change it.
Yeah.
Until you tell me you owned it, that car would have sat there for a lifetime with a flat tyre.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know how to change it. So until you say, I own it and I don't know how to fix it, then you allow somebody else in to help change it. Because we all need a mentor. I have the same spiritual advisor I've had for 38 years.
Really?
Yes, and I still use him.
Spiritual
advisor. People call them sponsors. People call them this. A sponsor is if you put my name on your back and you run around the field. That's a sponsor. A spiritual advisor. Because I have a spiritual disease.
To go into that.
The disease of addiction, right, is threefold. The mental part of it is that we can't stop thinking about it. The physical part is that once we start, we can't stop. The spiritual part of it is the total self-centeredness. We don't give a fuck about anybody else. The minute we put that chemical in our body, I'll get there later. If I've got to pick my girl up, but I've got to get on first, I'm going to get on first. If I've got to be at mum's for dinner at 7, but I can't score, I'm not getting at mum's for dinner. The total self-centeredness. I'm not hurting anybody. It's my life. Why don't you just fucking leave me alone? All that self-centered stuff. That's the spiritual self-centered stuff. To deal with spirituality, you need to bring a power greater than yourself in. Now, power greater than myself is somebody who's been there and got out of that hole. It's not somebody who's telling me, oh, I read a book that says, you might be able to get out that way. I want somebody who's got out of that hole and said, yeah, look, you put your left foot on that hole, then you go the right foot, right, then you're out. So they showed me the steps. Now I'm out of the hole. I'll listen to that person. But if I listen to somebody who goes, yeah, on page 37...
This is what it tells you to do.
This is what it tells you to do. And if you can't do, you can't teach. So the spiritual part of my disease is a total self-centeredness.
So how did you heal that?
By listening to what someone else told me.
Listen to what someone else tells you.
I worked a 12-step program for a long time, like of AA and NA, but I do NA. I love NA. I think it's a great program. Do I think that's all there is to it? No, I don't. I believe that's the vessel. It's like the car. And then I went and did yoga, and then I went to the ashrams in India and did meditation.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. I've been to the ashrams. I've done all that stuff because I'm a searcher.
You're trying to find what it was or what it is.
I'll never stop searching. I don't want to stop searching.
Are you in constant search now?
Yeah. I still work this program. I still write about this program. And I do a lot of journaling. People call it journaling. I don't call it that. I call it inventorying. If you and I are mates and we have a disruption in our communication, I go and write it down on paper, exactly what happened. Because while it's in my mind, I'll justify it and turn it how I want it to be. I always say there's three sides of the story: your side, my side, and the truth. And once I put it on paper, I see the truth. And that's, I love the truth. That's my company's called The Truth About Addiction. So once you understand that you have a mind that's a liar, a thief, and a cheat, you can't go for the answer where the question's coming from because it's not there. Because if you had the answer, why would you have the question?
Exactly.
Does that make sense? If you've got a question, you haven't got the fucking answer. So you have to go outside of yourself to get the answer. That's where my spiritual advisor comes in. I've rang him up only a matter of 12 months ago, and I'm 38 and a half years clean. And I've been in this program for 43 years, working this spiritual journey and doing all this stuff. And my wife and I, who I absolutely adore, I'm the luckiest man in the world, my beautiful wife, we had this misunderstanding. We don't fight. We've had two fights in in 12 years, and both of them were through my insecurity.
Mm.
Both of them were my ego and jealousy. One because a guy said hello to her, and I wanted to bash him. And she's like, who the fuck are you? You're off your head. I'd only just got out of prison, so I got a little bit of an excuse.
Early, that was the early stages.
I was still in prison mode, which that's just survivor mode.
Yeah.
And because my wife was a model, she's showing me some photos, and there's this guy standing beside her, a model, and I'm like, who the fuck's he? Mm. She goes, he's a prop. I said, fucking, I'll prop him, all right, you know? And so both times it was because of my ego and my insecurities, you know what I mean? That's an honest truth. When I had 2 fights or arguments in our whole 12 years. Mm. And, you know, we've got 2 little kids, and one of our little girls is very strong-willed, and she was being a really naughty girl, and my wife got angry, and she goes, oh, you little bitch, you know, and I go, hey, listen, don't call our daughter a bitch, and I'm all this stuff, you know, and she says, well, you look after her, right? And I said, well, you earn the fucking money. Straight away, that was my old man. That was my father just speaking. Well, I'm the man. Mm. You earn the fucking money, you know? And I walk out the room and I'm like, yeah, fucking, I showed her sort of, you know? And I go and ring up my spiritual advisor and I go, hey, mate, how are you? I'm pissed off. What's the matter? This is what just happened. And I always tell exactly how things happen. I tell the truth. Mm. And he lets me talk my whole truth through. And I finish talking and he goes, is that it? And I go, yeah. He goes, are you fucking serious?
So he gives it to you fucking
I'm
straight.
Like, what?
Yeah.
He goes, mate, you're so far out of left field, it's not fucking funny. He said, they're not her kids, they're your fucking kids as well. I'm like, this is not what I want to hear. This is not the conversation. Yeah. I wanted a pat on the back.
I was right.
I was right. Yeah. He goes, mate, you go and apologise. He said, you're so far out of left field. He said, why don't you read between the lines? She's asking for help. She's not coping. Mm. And I went, oh, no. 37 years fucking clean or something. You've got all this spiritual information and I'm still one day away from being a nutcase.
Still learning.
Yeah, and I'm still learning. I hope I learn for every day. I never want to stop learning. I never want to stop learning. So I went back in, made amends to my wife, said, I'm so sorry. What can I do to help? Mm.
I love that. There's I listened to a fair bit of Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
And he had a really good quote about sort of changing, get back on your feet. He said, the number one rule he found to getting back on your feet is to make the task small enough so that you'll do it. No matter how small it is, you make it small enough and you'll be able to do it.
Yep.
Is that the start of change? Because I think for me, what I had to do was heal that relationship with myself. But I was always lying, and not just lying to people, but lying to myself, right? So, you know, saying I'll do something, I fucking wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that beginning for me was, you know, forgetting what people were others saying about me or what I was doing to other people. I had to heal what I was doing to myself. So those small steps, those small tasks that I was, you know, if I said to myself, all right, I'm going to get up, make my bed, have a cold shower, I'd fucking do it.
Yep.
And that was like the building block to changing my life and having that confidence within myself. Yep. What's your theory on that?
Yeah.
Same.
Look, you're 100% correct. I have 8 demands.
8 demands.
And they're not negotiable.
Okay.
Openness.
Yep.
To state where you stand and not to stand your ground. That means if we're having a conversation and I think I'm right, I don't go, you fucking man, I am. I'm open to it. I say, okay, wait, that's your opinion. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. So now I've got an open mind. Mm-hmm. Acceptance. Accept that other people can see me better than I can see myself. If one person tells me I'm running rough, have a look at it. If 2 people are telling you I'm running rough, have a good look at it. If 3 people telling you you're running rough, you're running rough. Reliability. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say you're not going to do something, don't do it. You know, be reliable with your thoughts and your feelings. You know. Then consistency. You start the day at 5 mile an hour, you finish the day at 5 mile an hour. Because everyone's 100 mile an hour and then runs out of petrol by 12 o'clock. No, start at 10 mile an hour and just keep going all day, you know. You got openness, acceptance, reliability, congruence, thoroughness. If you're going to clean this room, you start at the ceiling, take the lights off, clean all the lights, work you down the wall. So don't cut corners. Do things thoroughly, you know. Congruence, what I say is what I do. I don't ask you to clean the toilet unless I'm prepared to clean the toilet too. You know, that's a really big thing for me. I hate incongruent people. I hate hypocrites. I hate people tell you, you know, do it like this and then they don't do it. It's like, well, you know, if you can't teach, if you can't do, you don't teach, you know. Respect has to be earned. It can't be taken. In giving respect, you get respect, and honesty. Honesty is tell it exactly how it is. Don't add bits on to make it a bit smarter, but don't leave bits off because of a fear of judgment.
Yeah, don't sugarcoat or anything.
They're my 8 demands. And at the bottom of those 8 demands, I've got action. I act upon these demands 100% to the best of my ability.
How long have you been living?
By 42 years.
42 years you've been living like this?
Yeah. And I practice those principles in all my affairs.
Yeah.
With everything.
Also professionally, personally.
Professionally, in business. In business, it's really important to be reliable. I'm just about ready to sack my gardener. Why? Because he's unreliable. Don't tell me you're going to turn up on a Thursday and don't turn up. And he's done it not once. If you do it once, okay, you might have been busy, there might have been some traffic. Twice, or maybe something happened. You do it 3 times, you're being disrespectful. Because now I'm allowing you to treat me the way I don't want to be treated.
Exactly.
And that comes back to self-worth. So all those 8 demands are all about my self-worth. Because if I'm going to apply those 8 demands in my life and then apply them to myself, I become a very worthy person. Because I say to people, you want good self-worth? Do worthy things. You want to feel like shit? Do shitty things. You want to feel like a liar and a thief? Act like a liar and a thief. Because how I act is how I feel. If I'm being honest with integrity and I got my chest up and my head up and I'm like, I'm doing this for motivation is a really important thing too. What is my motivation? If I'm over here doing this with you because I know you're a carpenter, I need some carpentry work done in my house, I'm not doing service. I'm doing business.
Yeah, because you want something in return.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My motivation is so important.
You said something earlier about healing that side of you and understanding love and empathy and, you didn't know what sort of love was growing up, and I was really interested to know how have you healed that over time?
By giving it.
By giving it.
By giving love. By giving love, you get love. In giving, we receive. That's a really important thing that people understand.
Yeah.
The more I give, the more I receive.
So if you want love,
give it.
Give it.
Be love.
Be that love that you want.
And don't listen to your brain, because even today, my brain's very judgmental. Somebody will do something, I think, you're an idiot. And I've got to stop myself saying, no, maybe he's just having a bad day. Even if somebody cuts me off the road, before I wanted to chase you down the road and road rage you, now it's like, oh, mate, you're just an idiot. Then I say, stop it, maybe he's just having a bad day. I have to pull myself up, because what I tell myself is what I believe. And I will act out on my beliefs. So if I think you're an idiot, I'm going to start treating you like an idiot. That's rude.
Yeah.
And the only person that suffers is me. Because you don't even know that I'm calling you an idiot. You're in the car 400 metres in front of me. And I'm like, you dickhead. It's like, stop it. Stop it. And then what I find for me is, especially because of my kids, how I project is how my children learn. So monkey see, monkey do. And I say to my wife all the time, if our child's acting in a certain way or swearing or doing something, it's because we did it.
Exactly.
We did it.
Yeah. And it's funny, I've learned that from Joe, who we'll talk about at the end there. It's Joe told me, Joe Williams, who's been on the podcast, he said, kids don't listen to what we say, they watch how we live.
Exactly.
So he said, live accordingly. If you want them to be a certain type of person, then you be that person. If you want them to exercise, you exercise. If you want them to eat healthy and respect people, you've got to do that too.
Yep. Yesterday, I came home from the gym. My little boy's obsessed with soccer. He's 9 years of age. He's going to be the first billionaire Isherwood, he tells me.
Yeah.
I say, I hope so. He can
He's
buy
the
me
next
a big
Messi,
gate.
is he?
He's the next Messi. And we did an hour soccer training with him every night. He's trying to get for rep at the moment. So every night he has to do 1,000 touches with the ball. And I've never played soccer, so I've had to learn all about soccer so I can teach my son. And then he goal keeps. He's a goalkeeper. So then he gets down there and I kick the ball fairly hard to him. He's only 9.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to kill him sometimes. And as soon as it's finished, we go and get in the ice bath together. He's 9 years of age. Like, we get in the ice bath together and he's like, I've got to wear my undies, Dad. It burns my nuts. And I start laughing. We get in the ice bath and he gets in there, and now we've got a competition. After we finish we do our 2-minute ice bath. Then we get out of the bath. Then he gets in on his own, or I get in first, and I hold my breath. And I hold my breath for, the other day it was for 15 seconds. Yeah. Then he got in and he held his for 16 seconds. Yeah. So yesterday I did mine for 20, he did 21. So what I'm doing, I'm teaching him how to control his brain. He's 9 years of age.
It's that self-regulation.
Self-regulation. And I say to him all the time, even playing soccer, I say, mate, I know you're scared, but you got to understand, when you stop before you get to the ball, it gives the guy the opportunity to take the ball, and then he'll be in control. I said, you need to control your brain and say, I'm not scared.
Yeah, don't
Go
hesitate.
through it. Don't hesitate. You know, I always say, be first. You've got to be first. Now, people might think that's weird, but I teach my children everything that I know. The same as an adult. They are an adult. They're just a tiny little adult.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I don't believe in that stuff as a child, you know. I've had 8 kids, you know, and all my kids, I try to educate them that this is the reality, this is the truth. You know?
Speak to them as a young adult.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's a book that I actually recently read, and it's called The Courage to be Disliked. And in one chapter explained that we all have the power to choose how we respond to life situations, and that people can change at any time regardless of the environments they're in. It's all about having the courage to change. If I'm the problem, I'm also the solution.
Yep.
If I'm miserable, angry, upset, it's my responsibility because it's based on what I'm thinking and believing in that moment. It's not the outside world causing this, it's all up in here. How have you managed to shift your perspective and change your mindset and make peace with the past and not let the past define you?
Well, I'm not a victim, for a start. I'm not a victim. When I wrote my book honestly. But it's not only about the book. I've been writing that book for 100 years in my head. You know, that book just got on paper. But the reality is the past doesn't define me, because as I say, and I mean this sincerely, bringing up my past is breaking into a house I used to live in. There's no one in there. I believe that if you do good things come back to you. And I believe what I call good things is the next right thing. What's good for society, not what's good for Ron. It's not about me anymore. The world doesn't revolve around me anymore. I'm such a small part of this world, and I'm so privileged to be given a chance to become a human being, because I was a human taking. And I don't like, you know, my mate in Los Angeles, he's got a tattoo studio, and he tattooed Charlie Sheen, he tattooed Roseanne, he tattooed David Carradine, he tattooed Motley Crue, he tattoos all these really
Celebrities,
you know, Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest hockey players in the world, and all that stuff. You know, I met all them people through Greg, right? Greg was the best man at my wedding. And on top of his door, he's got people who are wrapped up in themselves make small parcels. And it's one of the best things I've ever heard. And you know what? 99% of the people that walk through that door don't even understand what that means. Yeah. Because they're all wrapped up in themselves.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about them.
And it's not about me anymore. It's about being of service. I really believe recovery of any ailment is about being of service to others.
And that's one of the things I was thinking just then is that how you've used your suffering and made it useful, is to help others and serve others? Yeah.
I'd like to think in my crazy brain, in my crazy, crazy head, that all the stuff I've been through wasn't a waste of time. It was a reason. What was the reason? So when I sit down and say, what could all this possibly be for? It's to teach. Because people ask me a lot of time, what are you? What do you do? I say, I'm a teacher. You know, I'm a teacher. I'm a seeker, and I'm a teacher. And I teach what I've sought. You know, I teach, and I only teach what I know. I don't teach what I don't know. You'll never hear me tell somebody, you know, when I design jewellery. I make jewellery. I've been doing a jewellery company for 40 years. If somebody comes to me and they want to tell me how to make the ring, I tell them to go somewhere else. If I go to the gym and start telling my personal trainer how to train me, you know, it's just not
going to work.
It's not what it's about. Humility is a really important thing, because when you're humble, you can be taught.
It's a very underrated trait, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. You've got to be teachable. I'll tell you this story. It's a quick story. In 1981, when I was in rehab, I'd come straight from prison. I went to a rehab, and I had no family. None of my family would come and visit me. I had no money. I had no clothes. I was at the end of my heroin addiction. I was a bum. And this guy's family came up to visit him, and the grandma came. She was about 90, and she was on the visit. And they asked me, really nicely, oh, come over and have lunch with us, because they felt sorry for me. That's the truth. They felt sorry for me. I had nothing. And there was this lady there, 90-year-old lady, and I said to her, I still cringe when I think about it. I said, oh, what do you do for fun, darling? You know, just so disrespectful. You know, when I think about it, I'm a 27-year-old bum. And she said to me, oh, sweetheart, as long as I learn something every day, I've had a successful day. And I thought, what the fuck does that mean? And I'm 70 years of age now, and people ask me, what do you do? I say, as long as I learn something today, I've had a successful day.
Now you understand it, you get it.
Yeah, I get it, you know.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing to have. Like, I want to be teachable. I want to learn every day. You know, I still read. I study. I studied this disease of addiction. For that 8 years I was in prison, I spent all in maximum security. All I did was study the disease of addiction.
And that's one of the questions is, you know, you got your business, the podcast, the truth about addiction. What is the truth about addiction?
The truth about addiction is that it doesn't define us.
Yeah.
It's just like diabetes. It's just like any other disease. And when you use the word disease, it doesn't mean a disease is in the medical term. It means we're not at ease with ourselves. So we put something in our body to try to make us at ease. That's the word dis-ease. You break it into two pieces. I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to take something to change the way I feel. And it can be sex, it can be drugs, it can be gambling, it can be... See, I don't understand how somebody can put money in a poker machine and get excited. That's not my drug of choice.
Yeah.
But get me some heroin, and if somebody who hasn't shot heroin up, be going like, that's just completely out of control. For me, someone snorting cocaine, it's like, why would you do that? So we all have our own vices because we're all different individuals. But one thing we have in common is that once we put a chemical in our body, we can no longer guarantee our behaviour. So what's the answer? Don't put a chemical in your body. What's the answer? Make your life better without chemicals than it was with chemicals.
That's something that I'd love to chat to you about, because I went through a stage where I was talking to you about the drugs would just be the most euphoric, best feeling I've ever felt. And then I started to do some real deep work on myself and find out the things that were, you know, making me feel this way. And I have, you know, gone not for a while actually, but I've tried drugs probably the last couple of years. And that same feeling that I was expecting to feel is the complete opposite of what it did initially. I used to take it to escape the feelings of anxiety and stress and anger and, you know, fearfulness and like all these things. And now when I tried it, it was bringing up all these things. And it was the complete switch. And I'm thinking, what the fuck? It used to like make me feel this high. Now it makes me feel this low. I fucking hate this. This is the worst feeling ever. And I'm like, is it because I've done this work on myself and I absolutely love my life. I don't want to escape from anything.
Exactly. That's exactly
what I don't want to numb anything. Yeah. I want to be in this state all the time.
That's exactly what it is. See, with me, I try to explain to people is that once you find peace, you no longer need something to find the peace. So when you talk about, you first start taking drugs and it's all euphoric and it's all this fun, then it becomes shit, right? Because that's really what it is. It becomes terrible. So then you get clean and you take the drug again. It's like, well, this is terrible because it was terrible. So the drug is saying that we say the drug stopped working. But what happened was we changed. Because the only thing that changed, the drugs didn't change, our concept and our thoughts changed. I don't need to escape anything, which is really nice. So when I go to a hospital, I've had cancer, I've had spinal fusion, I've had a heart attack. This is on the last 10 years, right? And the doctors try to put me on medication. It's always codeine, endone,
all that
oxycodone,
yeah.
and all my drugs of choice. And I say to them, okay, listen, this is going to stop my headaches, all right? I agree. 100% I agree with you. But it's also going to stop my joy. I go, what? So when my little boy jumps in the pool and says, Daddy, Daddy, look at me, I said, I won't feel that fucking joy. I won't feel that happiness. I said, no, I'm not prepared
To risk that, eh?
To risk that,
Yeah.
to stop the headache. I said, I'd rather have the headache and watch my son jump in the pool. And then they started saying, you're untreatable because you won't take our drugs. And they don't get it. They just don't get that point that I'd rather have the headache and get the joy from my beautiful wife and children
Yeah.
than to be a zonked out.
It's that spiritual side of you, isn't
Exactly.
it? Yeah, yeah.
And that is the spiritual side. The physical side I can handle. I can handle the pain.
What do you hope your children will learn from you?
To give more than they take and to be grateful for every single day, for every single food that we eat. I say to our children, my wife's Asian.
What is she?
She's Vietnamese.
Oh, right. Jordan's Filipino.
Yeah, she grew up here.
Yeah.
My wife, she's been here since she was 8.
Yeah.
She's not that much older now. No, she's 35. She's getting old. God love her. And she's not as into it as I am. But we have a Buddhist temple outside, and we burn incense. My kids and I, and we pray. We go, thank you for our family, thank you for our friends, thank you for our food. And they all, excuse me, they both do their bows and that sort of stuff. And V goes, my wife, she goes, why do you do that? I said, to teach them to be grateful. You know, they've got to be grateful. We've got to be grateful. My children are blessed. They are very privileged. They're spoiled brats, but they're not brats, but they're spoiled. But I don't want them to be entitled. It's really important that they stay grateful.
Yeah, it's a tricky. I talked to Joe about it. It's having such a tough upbringing. You become resilient. We've talked about that. You become resilient, but as I'm not a parent or I'm not a father, but I want my kids to be resilient as they grow up. But I don't want them to have a hard upbringing.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It's hard work because I want them to have the best upbringing, but at the same time, like you said, don't want them to be entitled. You want them to be grateful. You want them to be resilient. Yeah. But I feel like resilient comes from going through something tough.
Yeah, with my little boy, he's been because he's playing soccer. This is his first year. It's his first year of playing competition sport. He's 9 years of age. And in the beginning, he used to cry a lot, and it used to frustrate me because it's like, fucking don't cry. You get up there, and your kid kicks you in the leg, big deal, get up and run. Now we've done a deal. I said, okay, you've got 10 seconds. That really hurt. I said, tell you why. I said, because if you were crying and I was a kid playing on the other team, I'd target you. So I'm trying to educate him how to be resilient through education, not through punishment. Mine was through punishment. I'll give you something to cry about. So yesterday we kicked the ball, hit him in the nose, bang. He didn't cry once. Yeah. He started laughing, and then he sneezed because it made his nose itchy, and he started laughing. So he's getting the resilience from education. Yeah. So I'm teaching him how to be stronger. That's why now in the ice bath, I trick him into staying in the bath longer so he can beat me. So it's teaching him resilience. So I'm trying to teach him. So I love Joey. The guy you're talking about, Joey Williams, he's a really good human being. We're pretty good buddies. We like each other. We both respect each other. We respect each other's journey. We have a common denominator. He's old boxing trainers. One of my best friends, Johnny Lewis. Yeah. I went to Vegas with Johnny Lewis.
Oh, right.
Watched Jeff Fennick fighters, everyone else. And I've known Johnny Lewis since I was probably 9 years old. He was a mate of my father's. And it was quite hard for Johnny because Johnny came to my book launch.
Oh, did he?
And he was mates with my dad, and then I gave him the book, and
he didn't know.
He didn't know none of that stuff. A lot of them didn't know. Yeah, right. A lot of them didn't know. And it's been, like, oh, okay, that was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
But I have no regrets and no fears. That's the truth.
I've got some last questions, quick fire questions. You can answer them as quickly or as long as you like. What's your purpose today?
To carry a message to people who suffer with addiction. That is my purpose. And just to be a good human being.
What brings you the most joy and fulfillment?
My family. And helping people.
Yeah. What is the most important lesson you've learned from all your experiences that you wish to pass on to others?
There's no shortcuts.
No shortcuts?
There's no shortcuts.
Yeah.
There is no shortcuts. It's hard work.
Yeah. Dedication,
commitment, and consistency.
And lastly, what advice would you give someone currently struggling with addiction who wants to turn their life around?
Find someone who's been through it. Find someone who's been through it to help you. because
That lived experience we were talking
you've
about.
got to have lived experience. You've got to have lived experience, and you can't do it on your own. Because if you could have done it on your own, you would have. It's that simple.
You need that help.
You need help. Yep. There's lots of places.
Talking about lots of places, are you still involved on the Sunshine Coast?
Yes.
Here?
Yeah.
So where the people listening, where can they find?
The first place I would go to would be to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting.
Yeah.
Because they're the people that are getting clean and that are staying clean. They're not sitting in an office somewhere. You can go to Drug Arm, you can go to any of the rehabs and that. But all rehabs are a funnel to Narcotics Anonymous. That's all they are. All drug rehabs, all funnel everybody into 12-step programs.
Yeah.
You know. But if you're struggling, you know, with addiction, go to Narcotics Anonymous. If you're struggling with mental health, find somebody, you know, because you need to be heard.
Absolutely. Ron, thank you so much for coming on today. It's I'm so happy our paths crossed.
Yeah.
I admire you so much, and hearing your story, it's you know, I don't want to use the word lucky, but lack for a better word, it seems like you're pretty lucky to be here.
Yeah.
All the things that you've gone through as a kid, and the person you are today, mate. I'm just really proud of you, and
Thanks, mate.
who you are and the father you are, and what your mission is today. It's you know you're saving people's lives, and I hope this is the start of a long friendship for me and you.
I'm sure it is. Really. Thank you for having me, and mate, yeah, I'm going to get you on mine, put you in the hot seat.
Damn it.
Yeah. In giving we receive.
Yeah, exactly, man. I'm looking forward to it. Again, thank you so much for coming on today, mate. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
mate. Thank you very
Cheers.
much, Elliot. Thanks, brother.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.